para po sa programang ito, and gusto po nating pasalamatan unang-una ang ating Regional Director, Dr. Malcolm Garma, for allowing us to hold this activity, and of course to the ESSD, through the leadership of Chief Chris Isiha and all the members of ESSD team for this virtual Parents Teachers Association Forum, na ito po ay may tema na tahanan, aralan, kaagapay sa paghubog ng kabataang Filipino. Sa loob po ng halos maglilimang buwan na online or distance learning na ipinapatupad ng Kagawaran ng Edukasyon, hindi lamang po dito sa Deped NCR, kundi sa buong Pilipinas man, ay atin po ngayong nakita at atin pong naramdaman ang mabigat na tungkulin ng mga magulang sa pag-aaral ng kanilang mga anak. Kasi nga po, dahil sa pandemya, ibang-iba po yung sitwasyon natin noon kaysa sa ngayon. Napakalaki po ng pagkakaiba, at ngayon po, katulad ng aking sinabi, naramdaman po nating mga magulang yung ating mabigat na responsibilidad para sa pagkatuto ng ating mga anak. Kaya ngayon pong hapong ito ay malugod po naming wine-welcome ang lahat po ng mga participants dito po sa forum na ito. At dito po ay malalaman natin at madidiscuss po ng ating mga inimbitahang mga resource speakers and panel of reactors ang mabigat at ang role nating mga magulang sa pag-aaral ng ating mga anak, at paano po natin kumbaga iti-treat o paano natin gagawin ang mabigat natin na tungkuling ito. Kaya sa tulong po ng ating mga resource speaker, may papaliwanag po sa atin na maayos ang mga tungkuling ating dapat gampanan at ang mga kailangang gawin para sa lubos pang pagkatuto ng ating mga anak. Ang bagong normal po nating tinatawag ngayon dito po sa larangan ng edukasyon ay yun nga pong mga modular and distance learning, sapagkat hindi pa rin po may patupad yung face-to-face. Kaya ito po yung pinakamagandang pagkakataon o pinakamagandang paraan para sa lalong pagkatuto ng ating mga anak. Kaya dito po sa atin pong na-organize na activity na ito, na malalaman pa po at maibibigay po sa ating mga magulang na ngayon ay naririto, kung yung mga hakbang na dapat nating gawin upang matulungan natin ang ating mga anak sa katuparan ng kanilang mga pangarap at sa pag-aaral na ginagawa po nila. At kami naman po sa Kagawaran ng Edukasyon, lalong-lalo na po dito sa Deped NCR, ay patuloy po ang pagpapatupad ng mga pulisiya, patuloy po ang pagdi-deliver ng edukasyon de kalidad sa pamamagitan po ng ating mga schools division superintendents, ng ating po mga supervisors, mga guro, at lang lahat po ng mga stakeholders natin na patuloy pong sumusuporta para po sa delivery ng quality basic education. Kaya ngayon pong hapong ito, atin pong pakinggang mabuti ang atin pong pakinggan po nating mabuti ang lahat po ng ating resource speaker, sapagkat ito po ay isang magandang pagkakataon para malaman natin ang mga dapat nating gawin para lalo pa nating matulungan ang ating mga anak. So muli po, isa pong magandang hapon. Muli po ang ating pong pasasalamat sa team ng ESSD, kay Joanne, kay Leia Torio, kay Leia Bautista, sa lahat po ng mga panel of reactors again and the resource speakers, ang amin pong pasasalamat. Ganon din po, ito po pinangunahan katulad po na nasabi ko kanina ng kanilang chief na si Dr. Isiha. So sit back and relax everyone. So atin pong makikita ngayon o malalaman ngayon ang mga dapat pa nating gawin. So marami pong salamat. Mabuhay po tayo. Lagi po tayo mag-iingat. Magandang hapon po.
Thank you very much, ERD Rocafort. At this point, allow me to introduce our first speaker. She has a degree of BS Business Administration at the University of the Philippines in 2001, a BS Accounting Management graduate at the University of Makati in 2010, and graduated with Juris Doctor in 2014 from City University of Pasay School of Law. She also has a career service professional eligibility and passed the bar exam in 2014 and worked as a paralegal at Caronan Law Office from 2010 to 2012, a legal researcher at the Office of the Mayor in Pasay City from 2012 to 2015, a practicing lawyer at Esperanza Law Office, and the legal officer of SDO Taguig and Pateros from 2015 to up to present, and now the OIC of the Regional Legal Unit. To talk about the legal basis of PTA existence, Deped policies on PTA, implication of homeschooling on parents' role, please give a warm welcome to our very own Attorney Annalisa G. Esperanza.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Good afternoon.
Yes, Attorney.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Leia, for that introduction. Good afternoon to each and every one of us here in this virtual PTA forum. Good afternoon, ARD, and to all other regional and division officials and all participants in this forum. So I am tasked this afternoon to discuss the legal basis of the existence of the Parent Teachers Association. So this is a brief discussion para lang malaman ng lahat na kung ano ang legal na basihan, bakit tayo may PTA. Diba? Kasi hindi basta-basta na meron tayong mga orders, organizations, associations in Deped without, of course, legal anchor or legal basis to support their legal existence. Okay, so before I start, let me tell you something about the PTA. So we have all heard of the proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." And it certainly takes a village to educate a child. In view of the distance learning program brought upon by the pandemic, parents now have greater role in their children's education. Their full support and cooperation as embodied in the Child and Welfare Code as well as in the different Deped orders is indispensable for the distance learning program such as online, synchronous and asynchronous classes of the Department of Education. Our educational system demonstrates the integral role of parents. It is a system found not just on relationship between students on the one hand and educators or schools on the other, but as much on the participation of parents and guardians. So di ba marami po tayong stakeholder? And of course, parents and guardians are foremost in the Education Act of 1982, enumeration of the members and elements of the educational community. The educational community refers to those persons or group of persons as such as or associated in institution involved in organized teaching and learning system, such as our public schools or even private schools. Educational community is composed of, ito na po yung ating mga stakeholders, parents, teachers, students, school personnel, and of course, yung the school itself. Okay? So let me request for the presentation of my PowerPoint presentation, please. Pwede po bang ma-share na or ako po yung mag-share? Okay. So, next slide po. So, sinasabi natin kanina, diba? Educational community refers to those persons or group of persons as such or associated in institution involved in organized teaching and learning systems. Educational community is composed of parents, teachers, students, school personnel, and the school itself. Okay? A parent-teacher association is a mechanism for affecting the role of parents as an indispensable element of educational communities. It is considered as an adjunct of an educational community having particular school as its locus. Locus means place of yung location po. Okay? It is an arm of the school with benefits and privilege and duties. So pag sinabi mong arm, diba? So gamit siya or isa siyang mekanismo para tumulong sa ating mga schools, ang ating mga PTA. So this definition or this view about the Parent Teachers Association is lifted from the Supreme Court decision on the case filed by Quezon City Federation of PTA seeking the nullification of Deped Order number 54 series of 2009. So this case is very interesting. Diniscuss sa kasong ito ni Justice Leonen as the ponente of the case, diniscuss dito, bakit may PTA? Ito bang PTA, establishment of PTA in the division, in the school level, ay mandatory ba ito? And the Supreme Court says yes, mandatory yan kasi meron tayong mga basihan galing sa batas na dapat merong PTA. So for all of us here who are interested in reading the full text of the case, nandyan naman po ang ano niya po, citation, nandyan yun. Ano po siya? QC PTA Federation versus Deped, GR number, sorry, hindi po masyadong maliit. QC PTA Federation versus Deped, GR number 188720, dated February 23, series of 2016. Okay, so having mentioned the Parent Teachers Association, let us now go to the legal basis of the existence of the PTA. So ito na po yun. Bakit tayo may PTA? First, of course, is the Child and Youth Welfare Code or the Presidential Decree number 603, dated December 12, 1974. Okay? In this statute, in this law, under Article 77 thereof, it is mandated that every elementary school and high school is required to have a PTA. School heads are bound by this requirement. Hindi po ito discretionary on the part of the school head. Kung ayaw niya o gusto niya ba, di ba? Hindi ko feel yung mga parents ngayon. So, ayaw ko magpa-elect ng PTA. So, hindi po pwede yun kasi mandatory ang batas na mismo. Hindi po ang DepEd, kundi ang batas na mismo ang nagsasabi na mandatory siya. Na merong PTA in every elementary and secondary schools. Okay? So, nakalagay din dito, di ba? Dito sa, kung mababasa nyo, dito sa inyong mga screen, that all parents who have children enrolled in a school are encouraged to be active members of its PTA and to comply with whatever obligations and responsibilities such membership entails. So while the establishment of PTA is mandatory, the membership of parents is not. Parang ano lang siya, voluntary po ito. And kung ayaw nyong maging member, maraming ganun, ayaw mag-member, ayaw mag-attend ng mga PTA assemblies. So wala naman pong sapilitan yan. But it is highly encouraged po. Okay? Nakalagay po yan, PTA mandatory establishment of PTA. However, membership thereof is not mandatory. So the Child and Youth Welfare Code also states and provides that PTAs all over the country shall aid the municipal and other local authorities and school officials in the enforcement of juvenile delinquency control measures and in the implementation of programs and activities to promote child welfare. Okay, so may membership lahat dyan. Dito sa ating, di ba, sa mga local school board natin, local council for the protection of children, member po dyan ang ating mga parent, merong representative ang ating Parent Teachers Association. So ganun kahalaga ang PTA, di ba? Kasi nga po mahalaga, parents being indispensable part of the life of their children, dapat sa lahat ng antas, di ba? Sa lahat ng parte na merong kinalaman sa mga bata, sa mga anak nila, ay meron silang participation. So mamaya malalaman po natin kung ano-ano pa ba ang dapat na may participation. Ano ang mga rights, privilege, and obligations ng PTAs and corollarily, yung mga parents din natin. Diba? Okay. So the next law which mentioned PTA is the Education Act of 1982 or the Batas Pambansa 232 promulgated in, of course, nandiyan na, 1982. The Education Act of 1982, a statute adopted subsequent to the Child and Youth Welfare Code. So ito 1982, yung una po kanina, 1974, yung PD 603. Diba? This Education Act of 1982 expressly recognizes the rights of parents to organize by themselves and or with teacher. So, nire-recognize nito. So, kanina, dun sa PD 603, minamandato na dapat merong PTA sa lahat ng elementary and secondary schools. Ito naman yung recognition lang and the provision on the rights of parents. Okay? So, masyado ba tayong mabilis? Bilisan lang po natin. Total, mas maganda at mas exciting yung ibang topic. So, dito kasi mga legal na basihan lang kung bakit tayo may PTA. Para alam nyo din, bakit nga ba may PTA, di ba? So, the next, of course, nasabi ko na ito kanina, the Education Act of 1982 provides for the rights of parents. Okay, one of those rights is the right to access to any official record directly relating to the children who are under their parental responsibility. Okay, so pumunta po tayo dito sa mga Deped orders. So because of the mentioned mandates provided by law, yung mga unang nabanggit ko na mga batas, the Department of Education came up with several department orders relative to Parent Teachers Association. These are as follows. So number 1, DEX pa ito noong 2001. DEX Order number 21 series of 2001. So 6 po lahat ito. So Deped Order 44 series of 2002. Then Deped Order number 23 series of 2003. Deped Order number 54, this is still a good Deped Order and we are still using this up to now. This is the point of contention or the issue in the case of QC PTA Federation versus the Deped, wherein the Supreme Court upheld the validity of this Deped Order. So, Deped Order number 77, series of 2009, and the last one is the Deped Order number 83, series of 2010. So, just a brief overview of these Deped Orders, di ba? Kasi yung ibang mga provisions naman ng mga naunang Deped Orders ay superseded na ng mga bagong Deped Orders. So, itong DEX Order number 21, nakakasunod po ba? Ayan, tama po. Okay? So, next slide na po tayo. So, ito pong DEX Order number 21, series of 2001. Deped Order number 44 series of 2002 and Deped Order number 23 series of 2003. This provides these three department orders provides guidelines in the setting and collection of parent, teachers, and community association or the PTCA fees. So pag nakikita nyo, bakit PTA ang usapan kanina? Bakit ito? Nandito sa tatlong DepEd order na ito ay may PTCA. Bakit PTCA na naging community? Well, in these DepEd department orders, nare-recognize pa itong parent, teachers, and community association. So itong community association natin ay mas marami pong parte. Hindi lang po parent, teachers, kundi parent, teachers, and other community members, mga interested residents, and even the local officials pwedeng sumali dito. Well, it is not the case nowadays. At present po, hindi na po sila pwede. PTA lang po. So parent and teachers lang po yun. Okay? So these department orders are required, nakalagay dito, PTCAs are required, PTA or PTCAs are required to incorporate with the SEC, CDA, etc. for establishment of juridical entity. Noon po ito ito po, baka may nakakarinig ngayon, mapapaisip ko, hindi naman requirement. So ito, dinidiscuss ko lang yung mga history ng ating mga DepEd orders. So these are our previous DepEd orders. So ito ang requirements. Sa ngayon, ito ay hindi na applicable in view of our DepEd order number 54. So para alam nyo lang yung shift ng ating policy. So this provides for socialized contribution, yung mas nakakaangat at nakakaluwag, mas malaki ang i-contribute, di ba? Ganon. The school may either recognize a PTA or PTCA. Okay? So ngayon, PTA na lang, wala nang PTCA. Nandito kanina yung binabanggit ko, PTA is limited to parents or guardians of enrolled students and teachers of a given school, while PTCA is open for parents, teachers, and interested residents of the community, including local officials. Okay? In these DepEd orders, hindi mandatory, di ba? The establishment of PTAs and PTCAs in schools are highly encouraged but not mandatory. Okay. So ngayon, pumunta na tayo dito sa ating present na DepEd order na hanggang ngayon ay good DepEd order pa din. Okay? The DepEd order number 54 series of 2009 or the revised guidelines governing parents, teachers, associations at the school level. So, itong DepEd order na ito specifically reiterated the portion of Section 77 of the Child and Welfare Code. Ano niya lang, kinopy-paste niya lang po yung batas. Nakalagay po dyan, every elementary and secondary school shall organize a parent-teacher association for the purpose of providing a forum for the discussion of problems and their solutions relating to the total school program and for ensuring the full cooperation of parents in the efficient implementation of such program. So, mababasa niyo po yan sa Section 77 ng Child and Youth Welfare Code. Okay? So, nandyan, nawala na po yung PTCA pagdating ng DepEd Order number 54. Okay? Then, ito po yung salient provision ng ating DepEd Order number 54. So, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. One of the salient provisions of DepEd Order number 54 series of 2009 is the establishment of PTAs in the schools is now mandatory. Okay? PTCAs are no longer recognized. Wala nang community association, PTA na lang. Hindi na pwedeng makialam, hindi na pwedeng sumali sa mga election at kung anumang bagay ang yung mga ano lang, yung mga concerned residents or local, and of course, even the local officials, hindi na sila pwedeng maging members and officers of the PTA, except of course pag parents sila, but they cannot run as officers already, diba? Then the SEC or the CDA registration is no longer mandatory to be recognized. Before Deped Order number 54, kailangan po magpa-incorporate muna sa SEC ang mga PTA at ang mga PTCAs. So ngayon po, at present, that requirement is no longer required. Pero pwede naman po kung gusto nyo rin na ipa-recognize. And the name of the PTA po pala, hindi ko na ilagay dito, shall carry the name of the school. So kunyari, bang malapit dito. So dahil nandito ako sa Signal Village, so kunyari ang PTA ng Signal Village is Parent Teachers Association of Signal Village National High School. Dapat yun yung pangalan. So hindi yung mag-iimbento pa ng pangalan, yung concerned PTA. So hindi po ganon. So ngayon ang mandato, the PTA shall be named after the school. Okay? The formal notification by the elected board of directors and the issuance of the certificate of recognition by the school head shall be the operative act to recognize the PTA. So ano yung, kung dati ang operative act ay yung registration sa SEC and isasubmit mo lahat ng mga requirements sa school head, may mga requirements doon, yun yung operative act para ma-recognize ang PTA. Ngayon po hindi. So formal notification lang ng elected board of directors plus the issuance of certificate of recognition by the school head. Okay? So yun po yung operative act to recognize PTA. And ano pa bang ibang mahalaga dito sa Deped Order number 54? Ito po, isa lang. There shall only be one recognized PTA in the school. Okay? Hindi pwedeng dahil ayaw mong sumali sa grupong ito, magtayo din ako, tapos magpa-recognize din ako. Magpa-recognize din kami. Hindi po. There shall only be one recognized PTA in each school. Okay? So, for next slide. Ay, sorry. Ano ba to? The Deped Order number 54 series of 2009 also provides for the creation of the Division PTA Affairs Committee. Kulang to. Division PTA Committee, Affairs Committee, which shall monitor the activities of the PTAs and their compliance with reports and other requirements to arbitrate disputes and settle matters that may be submitted to it for resolution, especially on PTA representation issue. So kung may problema sa mga usapin sa PTA, pumunta lang po kayo doon sa Division PTA Committee. Okay? So sila po yung mag-arbitrate. Okay? Sila ang magsisettle ng matters kung meron mang kayong mga hindi na pagkakasunduan sa school level. Okay? And of course, sila din po yung mag-check ng compliance nyo ng reports, ng mga PTA reports. So, ayun, marami po yan sa Deped Order number 4. Nandun po yung rights and the corresponding obligations of PTA. Okay? Then let's talk on the election. Paano ba itong subsequent Deped Orders natin? Sorry. Balik po tayo. Wag po muna tayo doon sa Deped Order number 77. Additional important provision of Deped Order number 54 series of 2009 are as follows. It provides privileges of recognized PTAs. Okay? Ito po yung mga pribilehyo ng mga ating mga PTAs, recognized PTAs. They are authorized to collect voluntary contributions from parents or guardian members. Voluntary po ha, walang mandatory contribution pagdating sa PTA. Okay? They are given the privilege to use any available space within the school premises as its office. Privilege po yan, hindi right. Okay? So kasi may mga we came over these issues na parang nagrereklamo itong mga PTA sa school head dahil hindi daw sila binibigyan ng opisina nila doon sa loob ng eskwelahan. So this should not be the case kasi kung meron lang namang available space, karamihan sa atin, lalo na dito sa NCR, very limited yung mga spaces natin. Ngayon mag-office sila ngayon doon. Maluwag kasi wala po tayong face-to-face learning ngayon. So, yun, kung meron lang namang available space within the school, then they can request the school head na mag-establish sila ng office doon sa school na yun. Okay? The representation in the school governing council to undertake fundraising activities, participation in schools inspection and acceptance committee, and observer in procurement activities. So let's see to it na nasasali natin ang ating mga PTA dito sa mga bagay na ito, especially to our school officials, school head, so sa mga SGOD personnel po natin na kasama sa forum na ito, i-remind po natin sila na ito ang mga participation ng ating mga PTAs. Okay? So ito po, school inspection and acceptance committee and as observer in procurement activities. Okay? And of course, collaboration in relevant school activities. Okay? Now, yan po, ilan lang po yan sa mga privileges ng recognized PTA. As we go along at siguro sa mga iba pang mga future Deped orders, so marami pa po yan kasi when it comes to policies involving children, syempre lahat po yan dapat may due consultation and kailangan kasama po din po dyan ang ating mga PTA. So mamaya, isa sa pinaka-importante, i-discuss ko din na role ng ating mga PTAs. So punta muna po tayo sa Deped Order number 77, series of 2009, and Deped Order number 83, series of 2010. Okay? These Deped orders provide for the guidelines for the conduct of elections of parent-teachers associations at the school level and their federation. So, ano lang po yan? Election guidelines. Okay? Kung paano ba mag-conduct, sino dapat ang makasali, sino ang mag-facilitate ng election, kailan. So, andyan po. These are all reading material. So, kung kailangan nyo po ng talagang lahat malaman, basahin na lang po natin kasi I cannot discuss everything. May marami pang i-discuss sa susunod nating mga speakers na mas importanteng bagay. Okay? In Deped order, itong Deped order number 83 is basically the same with Deped order number 77, series of 2009. Yun nga lang, meron lang silang in-amend na portion na pagdating sa Deped order number 83, only parent or court-appointed guardian may be elected as PTA officers. Okay? So, hindi pwede na si lola, si tita, sino pa ba? Yung kapitbahay namin dahil binilin siya ng mga magulang. So, hindi pwedeng maging elected PTA officers yon. Based from Deped order number 83, series of 2010. So, only parent and court-appointed guardian. Okay? So, malinaw po tayo dyan. Nasa Deped order number 83 po yan, series of 2010. So, hindi lang basta guardian, hindi pwedeng lola. Lola ako ni ano, kaya ako ang pwede ako magpresidente. Kailangan court-appointed guardian. Hindi na rin po pwede yung mga SP-SPA lang para maging elected PTA officer ka. Other matters, ito po, linawin lang natin to. Other matters, pupunta doon, kukuha ng mga records ng bata, card ng bata, makikimiting para malaman kung ano ba ang progress ng kanilang anak during the quarter, magpapatawag ng homeroom meeting para sa mga magulang. Pwede po umattend ang kahit sino i-authorize ng mga magulang. Kahit hindi court-appointed guardian. Pero for the purpose of being elected as PTA officer, kailangan po magulang ka or court-appointed guardian. Okay? Okay, malapit na tayo. Tapos na nga ata eh. Okay, so next, ano tayo, other privileges of PTAs, of course, the representation in the local school board and the membership in the Child Protection Committee. Itong pangalaw, pareho, of course, very important itong mga representation na ito. Dito sa membership in the Child Protection Committee, para alam rin po ng ating mga parents, ano ba ang role ng representative ng parents dito? Ano bang role ng Child Protection Committee? Kasi baka marami pang iba na hindi nakakaalam. Ano ba tong Child Protection Committee sa bawat paaralan? So, as provided under Deped Order number 40 series of 2012, so there should be an established school Child Protection Committee. So itong School Child Protection Committee po na ito po yung mga function. Okay? Next slide po tayo, please. Okay. First is to initiate information dissemination programs and organize activities for the protection of children. Establish a system for identifying students who may be suffering from significant harm based on any physical, emotional, or behavioral signs. Then monitor the implementation of positive measures and effective procedures in providing the necessary support for the child and for those who care for the child. Ensure that the children's right to be heard are respected and upheld in all matters and procedures affecting their welfare. So, itong Child Protection Committee, isa din pong arm ng ating mga school and mechanism para mag-provide ng support sa ating mga children learners. Okay? So, ang mga members po nito ay 6. So, ang school head as the chair, then members, the guidance counselor or the guidance teachers, then representative from the students, representative from the teachers, representative from the parents. Okay, so itong representative from the parents, galing po yan sa i-authorize ng PTA. Okay, and the last is the representative from the community as authorized by the barangay captain. So yun po yun. The barangay captain or his or her duly authorized representative. So kasama na naman po dyan ang ating PTA. And this is a very important committee in our school. So hindi dapat, para kumbaga hindi magkakagulo ang ating mga proseso pagdating sa child protection. Meron pong nirereklamo ang magulang sa barangay at may nirereklamo at the same time dinudulog din po sa ating mga eskwelahan, which should not be the case kasi pagka mga school related incidents na mga ganito, dapat sa school muna yan. And si barangay naman is duly represented, di ba? Kasi kasama po siya dito sa Child Protection Committee. Okay? So isa po yan sa very important representation na kailangan nandyan po ang PTA. So with that, actually in the context po ng ating distance learning, marami po tayong bagong Deped orders. Actually dito sa NCR na una tayo, the child the child safeguarding NCR online safeguarding standards, diba? Under our Deped order number 238 series of I think this 2020 po ito. So ito, meron po ditong mga rights and obligations ng bawat member of the community, diba? Of the educational community. Napapaloob po dito ang ating ano po ba ang katungkulan ng mga magulang during online classes or distance learning, mga asynchronous activities. Ano po ang rights and obligation ng ating mga magulang, lalong-lalo na ang mga magulang. Kasi sabi ko nga po at the start of this discussion na very important po ngayon ang participation ng ating mga magulang pagdating sa distance learning. Okay? Then, nandun din po yung rights and obligation ng ating mga kaguruan and school personnel. Okay? So kung gusto niyo pong malaman po, I think hindi po kasi ito part ng aking sa legal basis. However, pwede, this is ano po, siguro I don't know po kung kasama to sa discussion ng mga susunod nating mga speakers and lecturers, yung ating Deped NCR online safeguarding standards. So ano po ito? Maganda po itong guidelines po natin na nilabas ng ating regional office. Actually ngayon gumagawa po ng supplemental child protection program ang central office, and they are copying some provisions in these guidelines. So hiningi na nga nila sa amin yung sorry, hiningi na nila sa amin yung soft copy ng Word version ng anong ito ng regional memorandum na ito, so that they can adapt, the central office can adapt in drafting the supplemental child protection policy of Deped in view of the distance learning na nangyayari ngayon sa atin due to pandemic. So plinag ko lang po yun kasi very important. Nandito kasi ang karapatan at gampanin ng mga magulang. So medyo, of course, it's related sa PTA din po yun. Okay? So accordingly, as a last words, okay? Accordingly, a parent-teacher association's official status provided by the law and department orders not only enables it to avail itself of benefits and privileges, but also establishes upon it its solemn duty as a pillar of the educational system. So, para sa bayan, para sa bata, naway magkahawak kamay ang lahat ng partners ng educational community, especially mga school officials, school personnel, teachers, at ang ating mga magulang. Para sa bayan, para sa bata. So, that's all. And thank you very much for listening po. And I hope meron po akong na-impart na knowledge po sa inyo ngayong hapon. Maraming salamat.